What's up, everybody? Mad 'Cause Brad here. I know it's been a while, but it is time to start cranking some content out. You hear me? All right, so with the recent drops of Grey Knights, I'm super excited. So let's kind of go over what we're looking at with the Grey Knights, um, just how they're going to kind of be viable. There's so many different ways that they're going to be playable, and I'm super excited to dive into this. So let's do it. All right, so one of the biggest, newest things here is we've got their Tide of Shadows, which is really, well, I guess it's not called Tide of Shadows. I guess that's one of their tides, more or less. So how this is going to kind of work, so you've got all their like standard abilities, they're going to have their +1 to cast, they're going to have the Bolter Discipline, all those fun things that, you're kind of used to seeing. Then you've got the Tides of Warp. Sorry, not Shadow. Shadow is one of them. So it's the Tides of Warp. So you've got Tides of Fury, Tides of Convergence, Tides of Shadows, and Tides of Escalation. So Tides of Fury basically says, while this Tide Dominant is active, when you're resolving an attack with a Nemesis weapon by an infantry model, reroll a wound roll of 1. So that's okay, right? I mean, that's good if you're going super heavy infantry style list, and you just want to be able to re-roll wounds of 1. Cool, no big deal. So then you've got Convergence. So you're adding 1 to the strength and damage characteristic of PSI weaponry. So this is pretty cool. So this is, I don't even know how to explain it. So if you're just like running squads with PSI weapons, and you can just make them hit way harder. So instead of them being like strength 4, they're now strength 5. So you're looking for 3s to wound instead of 4s to wound typically, depending on where you're shooting, obviously. But I mean, it's a good one. The only issue is PSI weapons are a big point sink, so they definitely are gonna be a little costly. Then you've got Shadows. So this is probably one of the better ones. So Shadows and Escalation are probably the two that you'll see almost nonstop. I wouldn't even build a list really unless it's built around these. So with the Shadows, basically you're getting cover, even if you're not in cover. So like that's crazy, right? And then while the ability is active and you are entirely on or within terrain, you're -1 to hit. So like you can now make your whole army have cover and be -1 to hit if you play accordingly. So like that's really good. And the way that these kind of work is you can choose which tide you're going to be in at the start of each turn. So if you're going second, you can basically say, hey, I'm going to be in the Tide of Shadows, and you're going to be in cover. If you're going first, you could say, hey, I'm going to be in the Tide of Escalation. And Escalation is going to be an additional mortal wound for Smite Psychic Power. So now instead of just doing 1 mortal wound, everything is doing 2 mortal wounds. And obviously if you have ones that are doing like the D6 when you're up close, now you're doing +1 to that as well. So like that's just insane. Mortal wounds out the wazoo. So super excited about using Tide of Shadows in conjunction with Escalation. So if we jump into kind of some new stuff and new guys, I guess, and whatnot, everything like that. So a Chaplain, you haven't really seen too much of the Chaplain. Obviously they got Litanies and everything, so now you're bringing Litanies into the Grey Knights. So they have the Litany of Hate, which is going to be rerolling hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons. So this is really good because it doesn't say failed hit rolls, it doesn't say 1, it's just reroll hit rolls, so that you're rerolling everything. And models, they have to be within 6 inches of the Chaplain. So your Chaplain aura is really good if you want to get, rerolling hits of melee. Grey Knights are very strong in melee, so that's obviously good. There's other litanies which we'll get into. Otherwise, your typical, Chaplain stuff. Obviously, he can have a psychic power as well because he's Grey Knights, so why not? It really depends how you're building your list. We'll go over kind of some list options and stuff in another video, but nothing else too crazy going on there. Going into their stratagems. So there's some cool ones here. There's definitely some cool ones. So first one you got here, 2 CP for transhuman physiology. Yes, I'm very bad pronouncing stuff, so you can comment how good you are pronouncing stuff below. So basically, this is saying a vehicle, a Grey Knight's unit that is not a vehicle or servitor is chosen as a target until the end of the phase. Basically, wound rolls of 1 to 3 always fail. So like this is awesome. This is just absolutely insane. So if you have like something that's just shooting at you that, you know, let's say it's like a bunch of destroyers or a dreadnought, something like that, that is just putting a ton of shots into you, well, you can be like, all right, well, I'm going to mitigate all the 1s, 2s, and 3s. Like, that's amazing. Now, that doesn't stack with any of the other powers, but that's a really big thing to help try to keep something alive and maybe make them shoot more things at it. Masters of Combat. So 2 CP for this one. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when a Grey Knight Paladin from your army has not been chosen to fight with this phase and is chosen for the target of an attack. Sorry, has been chosen. I can't read. So I was like, what? So until the end of the phase, the model that has been destroyed can basically fight as if it had been chosen to fight. So something dies in the fight phase that has not fought yet. Spend 2 CP, it can fight if it dies. It's okay. I mean, you can definitely do a lot of work with it, but it's a costly CP. So unless it's like, you know, against something that you really want to kill and you think you can do it, that's good. And that's probably something where if you have like a 10-man unit or something like that and it's a bunch of guys, then maybe it works. But if it's only, you know, 1 or 2 guys attacking, probably not worth the CP. Vengeance of the Machine Spirit. So you're going to use this when a Land Raider or Storm Raven is destroyed. So this one's cool. So you can either make it auto explode, shoot its ranged weapons, or make melee attacks. Well, obviously you're not going to do melee attacks because that's just silly. So you're going to basically shoot it or you're going to make it explode. Obviously, depending on what you're equipped with and everything like that, shooting could go very good. But if you just want to make it explode, if you're in the midst of, you know, a bunch of their army and it's not going to hurt yours or too much of yours, it might just be better to explode and do a bunch of mortal wounds, especially if you can guarantee that picking up, you know, a couple characters or a couple units that are low on models. So it's a really good one. Overwhelming Assault, 1 CP for this one. Use the stratagem in the fight phase. You're going to select 1 Nemesis Dread Knight from your army, and until the end of the phase, you're going to add 1 to the attack characteristic of it. And while you're resolving attacks, you can reroll a wound roll of 1, and you can reroll a damage roll of 1. So this one's pretty good. Dread Knights, I think, are really cool, especially when they're Grand Masters. So this is just going to give them an additional attack, and if you're getting another attack on them already, for Shock Assault, now they're up to like 6 attacks, and then you could actually buff them a little bit more to get them up to potentially 7 attacks. So it's definitely super good to get them more attacks, and you're rerolling a wound roll 1 and a damage roll 1. Now I think what the most unclear thing there is it says a damage roll and a wound roll. So does that mean, and let me know what you guys think, does that mean that you can only reroll 1 of those dice, or are you able to reroll all of your 1s of damage and wounds? Because I think that would really depend if it's really worth it, because maybe just 1 isn't worth it. So Dynamic Insertion, 1 CP. So you're going to use a stratagem when a Grey Knight from your army is set up on the battlefield using the Teleport Strike ability. You can set them up 3 inches away from an enemy model instead of 9 inches. So really cool, but you cannot charge. So it's like, okay, what situation do you want to use this? You know, you want to deploy 3 inches away from somebody, but you can't charge them. So this is kind of when you would use this. So there's a psychic power that kind of goes with this. You can deploy these guys within 3 inches, and you can basically then say, hey, I'm going to target them. Maybe it's a character, maybe it's just a unit you want to die. Well, you can't charge or anything like that, but what you can do then is you can use a psychic ability, which we'll get to later, that allows you to shoot in the psychic phase and then move. So you can drop in, you can shoot them in the psychic phase, and then you can move like behind cover or something like that. Or you can just use this to be super close, take an objective potentially, and shoot the guys off the objective. So there's definitely some good use case scenarios. You could also use it to potentially, you know, for psychic powers or smite or something like that to get next to a character. So there's a lot of little nuances I think that it could bring to the table. So you're going to bring down the beast. So this one's cool. So after your shooting phase, when a Grey Knight unit from your army has targeted a vehicle or a monster, you can basically select one of them, and then all other friendly Grey Knights that shoot it get to re-roll wound rolls. So like that's basically Doom. So why not, right? So it's like Doom for 2 CP basically. Awesome. So you're just gonna annihilate something. 1 CP, big guns never tire, so you're gonna use this in your shooting phase when a Grey Knight vehicle from your army is chosen to shoot until the end of the phase. He does not suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons. So like, you know, some of the flyers it doesn't really matter for. The Land Raider doesn't really matter for, but you could use this on a flyer. You could potentially use it on like a Dread Knight, something like that, to where they have the heavy weapons and you just want to mitigate the minuses to hit. Good, not the best. Next page of stratagems, we've got Fury of the Proven, which is 1 CP, and this one is going to be selecting a Grey Knight's Terminator from your army. Until the end of the phase, you're going to resolve attacks made to the model, and you're going to add 1 to the hit roll. So now they're hitting on 2s, essentially. So super good if you got them, you know, hitting on 2s, and you've got a character next to them to reroll the 1s. They're going to be beasts in close combat. I'm not sure that you know, like a full Terminator squad is something you'd use this for, but Paladins do have the Terminator keyword, so I can definitely see them being used for that. Powerful Adept. So 1 CP, use a stratagem in your psychic phase. Select 1 Grey Knight Psyker from your army with the Rites of Banishment ability. Until the end of the phase, the range of the psychic powers that unit manifests is increased by 6 inches. So like this is okay if you have some type of like buff or aura that you need to reach people because you need to be, you know, 12 inches away or something like that. I guess it's a psychic power, not even aura. I don't even know. I don't know that I would ever use this. I don't even want to go into it. So Duty of Eternal is 1 CP. Use this stratagem when a Grey Knight's Dreadnought model from your army is chosen as a target until the end of the phase. When resolving attacks against the model, you half the damage, rounding up. So that's really good. Again, this could work for. I mean, it's just dreadnoughts, not dread knights. So if you're running, you know, some dreadnoughts or something like that, maybe they're not the character keyword, but you can make them take less damage. Cool. I think if you're building a dreadnought army and you're playing it in Grey Knights, you might be playing it a little wrong. So not something that I would really be looking to use. Use the stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select an interceptor squad. Until the end of the turn, they can be chosen to shoot and charge, even if they fell back. So this is like their fast attack. They've got little teleporter jetpacks, so you know you can be like, oh, I'm gonna move back, and I'm gonna be able to shoot you and charge something else. So typical like what you'd see with like Shining Spears and stuff like that. 1 CP. Emperor Surge. Use a stratagem in your psychic phase after a psyker has manifested a psychic power. Until the end of that phase, when a psychic test is taken for a friendly psyker within 6 inches, you add 1 to the total. So basically, you just cast your first psychic power, and then you pop this. You're going to use this every turn. There's no reason not to. And then everything within 6 inches of you, it's going to get 1 to the total. So now your smites, you were looking for 4s with no penalties. Now you're looking for 3s with no penalties. Like, whoa, hello. It's pretty insane. So 1 or 2 CP. So this one's interesting. So you got your Grey Knight's Terminator unit is chosen. It's one command point. If it's 5 models or fewer, 2. If it's above that, basically what this is doing is you're going to subtract 1 from the damage characteristics of weapons that attack you. So it's pretty much like having a Serpent Shield on you. You're basically just saying, all right, I'm going to take that damage down. So not only are Terminators already impossible to kill, you can make the damage that's hitting them less and make them even more impossible to kill. So Steady Advance, you're going to use this in your shooting phase when an infantry unit from your army is choosing to shoot until the end of the phase. For the purposes of Bolter Discipline, it's as they remain stationary. So basically, all your rapid fire You know, storm bolters are now getting twice as many shots in a unit. This is really good if you have a unit of 10. If it's anything that's not really a unit of 10, it's kind of a waste of CP unless you really need to kill something and use it on like a unit of 5. But it's good. It's there, especially if you kind of pair it with the other stratagem that was in the other book, where their strength is also going to go to 5, and then their AP is going to go to another -1. It definitely makes them pretty dangerous. Untainted and Unbowed. So you're going to use a stratagem in a Purifier squad when it's chosen as the target for an attack until the end of the turn. The models have 4 invulnerable save. So this is pretty cool. It's like, I'm going to use Eldar references all day long. It's like the Celestial Shield, where you're able to give them a 4 invuln. But they also don't take morale. So this is super cool if you have like a super big squad, right? You got a 10-man squad of these guys rolling around, and you throw them a 4 invuln. They're up in front of everybody. They auto pass morale. They're probably not going to kill that whole squad. The next one is 1 CP. You're going to use this stratagem when a Purgation squad fires Overwatch, and basically Overwatch is going to score on 4s, 5s, and 6s. Like, that's insane. Those are going to be all of your PSI weapons, so that's just going to be crazy. Pretty nuts. So now if we go into the new psychic powers, there's a couple here that I like, but some that I just don't really care for either. So warp shaping. So your warp shaping has a warp charge value of 5. So you're looking for 4s, and if you do that other stratagem, you're looking for 3s once again. So you could be getting this off on a 3, and you're able to select a Tide of Warp dominant that is not in effect, and you can change it. So what this is really cool is, let's say you're doing your psychic test stuff, and then you use this as your last power that you cast in your psychic phase, and then boom, you throw the cover like Tide of Warp on. Like, that's insane. So you could be getting your additional mortal wounds, and then right afterwards you change to cover. Awesome. So the next one is Armor of Resilience. This has a warp charge value of 6. So we're going to assume that we're going to basically have a +2 on this, so it could go down to a 4. Again, very easy to get off. If it's manifested, you're going to select an infantry within 12 inches of the psyker until the start of your next psychic phase. When resolving attacks, you're going to subtract 1 from the wound roll. So I mean, this is pretty cool. This does not, it's stated in there, this does not stack with the stratagem for the ignoring 1 through 3s, so this will not make it go 1 through 4s. It's still just 1 through 3s. And then the ethereal manipulation. So this is a warp charge value of 7. Could go down to 5. Still not that bad to cast. And if you're a librarian with these, you could get another. You could end up re-rolling stuff. So I mean, you could buff a lot of these super easy. So your Grey Knight's within 6 inches until the start of your next psychic phase. When resolving an attack made by a model in the unit in the shooting phase against a unit that is within half range, you can re-roll the hit roll. Whatever. There's other ways to buff and get re-rolling hit rolls. Not really something that matters. Edict Imperator. No idea how to say that. So it has a warp charge value of 7. If it's manifest, you're going to select somebody within 12 inches of you. That unit can shoot as if it was your shooting phase and then make a move as if it was your movement phase. So they cannot shoot again this turn or charge this turn. See, so I was really excited when this first came out, and then I realized you can't shoot again that turn because I was like, oh, you could just take a Land Raider. You can give them the stratagem where they don't have to have line of sight, and you can use this, and then you can literally shoot 2 times out of line of sight with 4 las cannon shots, and like, it's crazy. But you can't do that because they only be able to shoot once. So what I think that this is cool is, like, if you want to play super cagey, and let's say you have like a Dreadnought, a Dread Knight, something like that, where they do have bigger guns, and you want to just hide them because you don't want to be too aggressive. You can just shoot them, in your shooting phase or in the psychic phase, or like I said before, when you drop somebody in, you can shoot them and then you can move away. It's basically a fire and fade effect, but in your psychic thing. So you can move, you can put yourself in a position to be able to reach stuff, shoot it, and then move away and hide. You can also use this to clear out flak, maybe, that's in front of a character, so then all of your other psychic abilities can target that character or target a different unit. So you can use it in a lot of different ways. The domination is going to be a warp charge value of 7. You're going to gain a command point. So this one's really cool. So basically you can get this off on a 5. If you're a librarian, you can get it off on a 4, and you can re-roll that. So really strong. You could pretty much almost guarantee you're going to gain a command point, and with how many psychic like powers you have and how many are really good, this is definitely one you should be using every turn. Inner Fire, so this one's interesting. It has a warp charge value of 5, so pretty much we can get it down to 3, right? Or even 2 if you're a librarian and re-rolling. Like, it's crazy. So if it's manifested, you're going to select an enemy unit within 1 inch. So what this is good for is this is good if you're in combat and you're going to use it like, you know, your next turn after you're in combat or something like that. And what you're going to do is you're going to roll a number of d6 equal to the result of the psychic test. So obviously the higher you can get, the better on this. So let's say, you know, you get a 10. Then you're going to roll 10 dice, and for each roll of 1, you are going to suffer a mortal wound, but each roll of 3 up, the enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So like you can clear out a 5 to 10 man squad or a character super easy with this ability, but it is risky because you might kill yourself. Not something that I'll really take because you got to be super up in people, so I don't think that you'll be able to use it all game. So when we look at the new relics that they got, so you've got a blade. Basically, this is going to be with a model with a force sword, and it's going to replace it. It's pretty much just going to make you strength 1, AP minus 3, and 3 flat damage. The 3 flat damage is awesome. And obviously, if you're going against demon, they just don't get saving throws, so you could just crush down some demon folk. It's good, but not something that I would really put a relic on. There's better ones out there. The Sanctic Shard, so this one's really good, pretty much only to put on a librarian because they have 2 psychic powers that they could take. Anybody else you could put this on is only going to really get 1. So unless you're taking a librarian, it's not really worth it to put on anybody else. So when a psychic test is taken from this model with a relic, you can re-roll the result, and you can add 1 to the total for psychic tests taken for a model with a relic. So basically, your librarian can be plus 3 to cast. Yeah, whatever abilities you give them, they're going off, right? So the Augmentum Scrolls, so when you're resolving attack with a Nemesis weapon within 6 inches of the model with the relic, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores an additional hit. This one's really good. I mean, having exploding 6s is really good, especially if you're doing something with like a large paladin squad and you've got, you know, a guy with them. You could just be doing more damage, and they're going to be that much more deadly. Even Terminator, something like that has a lot of attacks. So Stave of Supremacy, Stave. So models with Nemesis warding, stave only. When a psychic test is taken for the model within 18 inches, the enemy model suffers perils of warp on any roll of double. So I think this one's kind of cool, but it's hard to like take because there's so many armies that won't have a lot of psychic tests. But like, right, if you know that the meta is super niche where you're playing a lot of Eldar, or you're playing a lot of Tyranids, or you're playing a lot of anybody that has a lot of psychic tests, you could take this and you can just try to make them perils nonstop. So it's pretty interesting. So this next one is going to be for librarian model only. So like, right, if you don't give them plus to cast, you can do something like this. And what this basically is saying is you can select a Grey Knights unit within 6 inches of a model with the relic, and you can increase or decrease by 1 the value shown on the number of dice. So basically you can buff somebody else to be, you know, plus 3 to cast once per turn only for a single ability. It's good, but meh. And then this one's really cool. So I like this one a lot, and I will definitely be running Tech Marine with this. So a Tech Marine model only, and when you're using this model and you go to heal, it heals 2d3 instead of just d3. So now you're running him with a Land Raider or with, you know, Dread Knights, and you're just like, oh, you hurt them, heal. Really awesome. I like that one a lot. So litanies. So we got some new litanies here. So you've got Litany of Faith. So when a model in a unit within 6 inches loses a wound on a 5-up, it's not lost. So you've got a 5-up, feel no pain, with everything within 6 inches. Yes, please. Oh, it says a mortal wound only. So maybe that's not that. Maybe that's not that good. It's only mortal wounds. Maybe it's not that good. Maybe you use him for the rerolling hits instead. So words of power. If this litany is inspired, Grey Knights within 6 inches when resolving attacks made that has a random damage characteristic. You can reroll the dice when determining the damage inflicted. So this is cool if you're running like a heavy, Dread Knight list. Like maybe you've got a bunch of Dread Knights, Dreadnoughts, and you're doing a lot of las and stuff like that, and you're just like rerolling the damage for all the las. It's pretty cool. So the guidance is going to be Grey Knights within 6 inches when resolving attacks made with a ranged weapon. You ignore the hit roll modifiers and ballistic skill modifiers. So this is really cool. Basically, yeah, I mean this is awesome, right? It's like anything with a heavy weapon, you're gonna ignore the ballistic skill modifiers. Shooting at anything with fly, you're gonna ignore the hit modifiers. So it's like, oh, you're -1, -2. Nope. Oh, I just moved with all my heavy weapons. Doesn't matter. So huge right there. Absolutely awesome. Refrain of Convergence. So if this is inspired, when you do Deny the Witch, you can add 3 to the total. It's okay, but not worth a litany. If this litany is inspired, Grey Knights within 6 inches of the model add 6 inches to the range characteristic of bolt and PSI weapons. So that's really good if you want to be able to hit people, a little bit more steady on your first turn, but maybe not what you would typically take. Then the next one is going to be Focus with Grey Knights within 6 inches when resolving an attack with a Nemesis weapon or PSI weapon. You're going to improve the AP by 1. For 1 that attack. So that's good. I mean, right? You can always say, okay, my AP is going to be better. So now if you have that litany on and you're shooting a PSI weapon and then you make their strength and their AP better with a stratagem, now their AP is, going to -2, -3, their strength is 5. Now they become, a lot deadlier. So it really just depends what you're building your army to focus around, and there's some type of litany that goes with it, whether it's heavy weapons, whether it's PSI, a lot of good options. Name generators, point values, obviously. Nothing really changed too much that I noticed. So yeah, I mean, that pretty much does it for Grey Knights. I'm going to be having a video on kind of the list that I'm going to be building towards, and then hopefully you can check it out on the Pro Tabletop channel when we stream it after it gets all built. Thanks again for watching, guys. Let us know what you think of Grey Knights and what you're looking forward to using and building with them in the comments below.